this video, we're going to go through developmental stretches. The maintenance stretches are stretches you can do after each training session or each running session. Developmental stretches are deeper and held for longer and should only be done once or twice a week. Make sure before you do them that you're nice and warm, so you want to have some nice warm clothing on. Maybe you sat on the sofa for a while before doing them with a blanket over your legs, that kind of thing. Each stretch is held for about 30 seconds and I'll give you little coaching points as we go. So the first one you're going to do is called a child pose. So if you do yoga, you might be familiar with this. I want you to get your feet together and your knees slightly apart. Let your bum drop down onto your heels and then walk your hands forward. Let your forehead rest on your mat, making sure that your heels and your bum stay in contact. When you've got sort of comfortable, just pull your hands forward a little bit and then rest in that position. So you should feel a stretch across your back primarily doing this. I can feel this about here, but that's because my upper back is quite tight. So from there, we're going to move up into a cat stretch. Hands underneath your shoulders, bring your knees together slightly and then really arch your back nice and high. So again, I can feel this between my shoulder blades, and don't neglect your core. So in that position, just think about pulling your tummy up slightly towards your back. Good, and then from there, you're going to come up onto your knees. Sorry, my dog. There you go. Take one leg forward. So not too far forward. You want to think about having your leg in right angles. And then before you start to stretch, I want you to tuck your hips forward. So you're really tucking your bum under and kind of pushing your hips forward. Keep that feeling going and then push forward. So you should get a nice stretch across the back hip. Hold that for about 30 seconds. And then change sides. So I'm not holding these for as long as you might want to. So if you're doing this following my video, pause the video, hold it for a little bit longer. Other foot forward, tuck your bum under, hips forward, and then push forward, keeping your torso upright, and then hold that stretch. So I can really feel that across the front of my hip, just in here. Good, and then release. I'm going to give you an inner thigh stretch now, and I'm going to give you two ways of doing it. The first one might feel quite aggressive, so a bit too much, and in which case you can do the second way of doing it. So kneeling up, bring one leg out to the side, look where your knee and your toes are, so you want your knee and your toes to be in line, then sink down onto your heel, so you've got your bum in contact with your heel. Then when you've got into that position, just lower yourself down so your elbows are on the floor. Now I can feel a really deep stretch going all the way down my inner thigh, even past my knee. If your ankle mobility is good, you can try and push your foot down to the floor. If it's not brilliant, then you can just rest your foot like that on the ground. If that stretch is a bit too much, so if it feels like it's uncomfortable, none of these stretches should be painful. Any pain reduce your range of movement. If that's uncomfortable, you can do the inner thigh stretch in this position. So you sit with your feet together, nice tall chest, and just let your knees drop apart quite naturally. If you can just push apart a little bit as well. I prefer to do it the other way. I find when I do this stretch, I think it's called the butterfly stretch in yoga, I find when I do it this way, I tend to hunch forward and round my back a little bit. I find it quite uncomfortable to stay upright. So I'll always go for the kneeling inner thigh stretch, but do the one that feels comfortable, that you know is getting the best out of the stretch as well. Right, next one, quad stretch. Again, I'm going to show you two ways of doing it. So the first one is a kneeling quad stretch. So put one leg forward, not too far out. So my ankle is directly underneath my knee. Then lean forward slightly. I'm going to grab my foot sort of over my laces, tie up on my trainers, pull my heel into my bum, torso nice and tall, and you lean forward a little bit. That might increase the stretch, or coming upright a little bit. If you do this and you find that you're wobbling around quite a lot, then you can do it next to something you can hang on to, so a handy foam roller here. And if you find that it's uncomfortable for your knee, then maybe do this on a cushion, but you should be doing this stretch not directly into your kneecap, kind of top of your knee a little bit. So if that feels really uncomfortable, if you're very wobbly and you don't feel like it's the right stretch for you, then do this as a standing stretch. So it's the same stretch you did in the maintenance stretching video. Nice tall torso, pull your heel into your bum. Don't let your back arch. So when you're in that position, tuck your bum under and then pull up again. And again, hold for 30 seconds on each side. So the next one is a hamstring stretch. I'm going to give you a lying hamstring stretch. Lying on your back. One leg bent. Bring one leg up. So I'm holding my leg above my knee. Never hold around the joint. So above my knee. I'm going to pull my leg in towards my chest ever so slightly and then work on straightening my leg. So what you don't want to do with a hamstring stretch is your leg shaking. That means you're stretching a bit too hard. So if your leg starts to shake, just let your leg bend a little bit and pull your knee back in towards your chest a bit more. If you have good hamstring flexibility, then you basically get your leg completely straight. Mine's not brilliant. Long run this morning. Next one, glute stretch. So I'm going to give you two options for this as well. One is more gentle than the other. So the first one is the slightly more gentle one. I want you to sit with one leg straight out in front of you and then take the other leg across like that, keeping your torso nice and upright, both shoulders pointing forward. Pull that knee in towards your body and then really pull in. So my foot's off the floor. Hold that for about 15 to 20 seconds. Then let that foot drop to the ground and then just keeping the pull across your body, rotate one to the side. So the other way of doing it, which I actually prefer because you get a deeper stretch, is to move into a straight arm plank position. Take your leg underneath your body like that, and then lower down, elbows onto the floor. And that gives me a much deeper stretch into here. So I'll show you from a slightly different angle. Straight arm plank, leg under my body, sliding down, elbows to the floor, like that. That is quite a deep, aggressive stretch. Some people call it a kind of pleasure pain stretch. If you're finding it really uncomfortable, trying to keep your body off your leg a little bit, if you're quite flexible and you don't find that too difficult, then you can hold it like that for about 15 seconds. Take a deep breath in, exhale, and then lower yourself down onto your leg even more, which will increase the stretch. So the next one is a stretch for a muscle called your TFL. So it's not Transport for London. It's the tensor fasciae lata, which is a muscle in about here. It's one of your hip extensors and it can get really tight if you do lots of running, particularly lots of fast running. So you need to lie on your back, cross one leg over the other like that, and before you start to do anything else, actively push that knee away from your body using your own strength. Keep that feeling going, then get your hands around that leg and pull in. I've just discovered what stretch I need to do a lot more of. And try and keep that leg pushed away from your body as you pull in. If your flexibility isn't brilliant, you can use something like a towel. I'll show you the band. Bands aren't brilliant because they're a bit too stretchy. So you can do that stretch by pulling in. So I'll use a towel, something that won't stretch, or a nice thick CrossFit band. You can pull in using something if you can't quite reach forward to get your hands around your leg. Then we're going to do a chest stretch. So I want you to get into a nice big lunge position. So you're getting that foot quite a long way forward. So I've got my left foot forward, right hand down, and I'm just sort of pushing into that stretch and then reaching around like that and just holding that for a few seconds and then changing sides. So other leg forward, hand down, really pushing into that and then reaching. Look at your hand as well. And then release. And the last one for this sequence is what I would call a door frame stretch, imaginatively titled, because I want you to do it in your door frame. So pretend that's my door frame. Get your elbow to shoulder height, step through and get a nice stretch in your arm there like that. And again, about 30 seconds on each side. So the whole sequence will only take you a few minutes, and it's a really useful thing to do a couple of times a week, particularly after your long run if you're a bit sore and tight.